Okay, so we are on page 577, lesson 10.5. And we are starting factoring today, which is essentially like they are going to give you, and I'm going to write this over on the side, it won't be in your book. So if you remember in the last lesson, we did multiplying binomials. So let's say it's 2x minus 1 times x plus 3, or whatever, okay? We knew it was multiplication because there's nothing in between here. So we would do 2x times the x to give us 2x squared. We would do 2x times the 3 to give us 6x, and then we'd go and do the bottom, negative 1 times x, negative 1 times 3, and then we would combine these two inner ones to give us 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. Okay, so now our questions for factoring will start with this, and we're going to work backwards to find what these two binomials were. It can be more than a binomial, but typically it's two binomials. All right, so if you're looking at our first example here, gives us, and we're going to start off simple on these, so it gives us two terms, 12a squared plus 16a. So you want to think, what is the greatest common factor, or the GCF? All right, that is going to be the biggest number that divides evenly into both of the numbers, so 12 and 16. So like 2 will divide evenly into those, but 4 also will, and that's greater or bigger, so 4 is the number. And then you also think if you can take out, or if they share a variable, and if you can take that out. So you can take the smallest exponents, like this a on the right side. Technically has an exponent of 1, we don't need to write that, but I can take that smallest one from each, so that would actually make my greatest common factor 4a. So I'm going to write this over to this side. So 12a squared plus 16a. So if my greatest common factor is 4a, I'm going to divide, because remember I'm working backwards to see what they multiplied, each of them by the common factor. That number goes, slash variable goes outside parentheses, and then we divide these. So 12 divided by 4 gives us 3, so those are done. And then a squared divided by a to the first. So you got to think when you divide with exponents, you actually subtract them, and that leaves me with just a, or you can think the bottom cancels and it cancels the 2. And then we do 16 divided by 4 is 4, and the a's would cancel. A lot of times things will cancel out, so that's going to be the quickest way to see and kind of mark those out. Always check in your parentheses at the end and make sure there are no more common factors. All right, and then if I wanted to check, so this is what we're trying to end at. We're trying to end with it looking like a multiplication problem, okay? If you want to check your answer, you distribute, like we did in the last unit, to check it and make sure you start, or that you end with what you started with. So 4 times 3 is 12, a times a is a squared, and then 4a times 4 is 16a. That does match this, so that means I did it right. But this isn't my answer, this is just my check. This is my answer. All right, so flip the page to page 578. We're going to do A. We're not really focusing on the type that B is. All right, so look at A. I want you to take a minute and try to find the greatest common factor that we talked about. So what's the biggest number that will go into both? And then I can take the smallest variable exponent. Okay, so take a minute there and find that. All right, so let's check. So we said if you didn't know it, to just kind of start dividing some numbers and see. May take a couple guesses sometimes, all right? We did find 11. And then check the variable. So what, do they share a variable, first of all? Do they both have the same variable attached? What variable is attached to both of them? N. And then you can take the smallest exponent. So if there's just an n on one of them, that's all I could take. But what is the smallest exponent here? 2. So that could be my greatest common factor. All right, so let's work it out now. So we divide each of them by that common factor, okay? Because we're trying to work backwards to get to our multiplication part. So, write my parentheses. What goes outside my parentheses? 11n squared. Good. All right, now do, what's this first one? Hayden, what's that first one going to be? 33 divided by 11 is what? What? Divided. How many times does 11 go into 33?
3 times.
3. Okay, now don't forget the variable. How many would be left on that exponent? Yes, 3 minus 2 is 1, so just the n. Okay, Drake, do the second one here. So negative 121 divided by 11 would be what? You can calculate it. No, close though.
11.
Is it positive or negative?
Negative.
Yes, so negative 11. All right, Nathan, what would I have left with the n? Nothing. It cancels out. So close my parentheses then. All right, and then remember so this is your answer, okay? If you want to check it, though, is when you distribute. So don't, give me the answer you started with, but I could do this. All right, well, that's 33 into the third, and do that, which is negative 121 into the second. Is that what we started with here? Is this what we started with? Yes or no?
Yep.
Yeah, so that means that it's good. Okay? Page 579, example 3. All right, look right here. What is different kind of from the first one that we did? What looks different about that question?
There's more.
There's more. Okay, how many terms or how many parts are in this question? So look at that. Count them. How many little parts are there? 4. Okay? If you see one like this where there are 4 parts, what you're going to do is you're going to split it. If I split 4 into 2 groups, how many is in each section? 2. So I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to split the first 2 together and the last 2 together. Okay? And I'm going to kind of solve this down here because, again, they don't really give me a lot of space to write here. So it's 2uv plus 6u. And then my second set is positive 5v plus 15. Okay? All right, we're going to do the same thing that we just did with the greatest common factor. We're just doing it twice because we have 2 groups. So that's why we split into 2 groups so that we can do the common factor twice. They will not have the same greatest common factor. Like the first groups will be different than the second groups. Okay? So don't think that they're supposed to match. No, they won't. All right, so let's look at the first one. I'm just going to write my greatest common factor above each of them. So look at the numbers, 2 and 6. What's the biggest number that goes evenly to 2 and 6? 2. Now look at the variables. Do they share a variable? Is there a variable that's in both of them? Yes. Which one is the same? The u. So the first one has a v and the second doesn't, but that's okay. I can still take out the one they share, okay? All right, so now we'll put our 2u outside the parentheses, and we divide them, just like we did before. So, Jake, what's this first one going to give us now?
1
Close. The 2's will cancel, right? So that leaves you 1. What about the u's? They cancel too. So what are you left with? Just v. So you can put 1v or just v, either way. Okay, Elias, do the second one here. What's 6 divided by 2? 3. And then what would happen to the u's? Since there's one on top and one on bottom. See how they canceled out on this side? You kind of think of it as like if 1 divided by 1. Well, it's just going to cancel and give us 1. Okay? So if it's just the same number on top and bottom, you can cancel them out. All right? So Elias said plus 3. Okay, now the second set, is its GCF going to be 2u? No, it's going to be different, right? So Nathan B, what number will go into 5 and 15? 5. So that's my common factor. Do they share a variable on these two? No, because only one has the variable.
So I divide them by 5. Okay. Should I put right here, should I put plus 5 or minus 5 for my greatest common factor?
Plus.
Plus, because it was positive. So plus 5 parentheses. All right, Grant, divide this one. What's 5v divided by 5? 1.
1v.
Yep. Okay, Priscilla, what's 15 divided by 5? 3. Close your parentheses. Okay, now pause and look here real quick. If you did it correctly, so if like you picked the correct greatest common factor and you divided right, your parentheses should match. Okay? But this is not like simplest form, because you know when we did, like, this is just an example, you don't need to write it. When we did like this, well, I do the 2x times the x, and I do the 2x times the negative 3, right? And then I do the 2 times the x, the 2 times the negative 3. I write them together, though. So that's the same as so you see how I'm doing the same thing here? I'm multiplying 2x by each of those. I'm multiplying 2 by each of those. So they want us to simplify it down to this form right there. So kind of simplify it there. So how could I make this into just the 2 sets of parentheses like that? What could I do there?
2u plus 5.
2u plus 5.
1b plus 3.
1b plus 3. So I'm not writing the 1b plus 3 twice because I'm already going to distribute twice. Double distribute there, okay? Is that simplest form? Are there any more common factors inside my parentheses? No. So then you are done. Okay, so these, like, the 4-term ones where they're a little longer, but it is the same, like, process, okay? All right, we're going to try the check down here at the bottom. Hopefully you didn't take up all the space like I did.
Barely use my space.
Good. Okay.
I was wondering how that would work.
Yeah, so first of all, see the TW at the front? What number could we put in front of that? 1, because I think that kind of helps you guys visualize like what we're talking about. All right, there's 4 parts, right? So what do I need to do first? Split it up like this. Okay, now find our greatest common factors. Now the first one's a little tricky. Is there a number that will divide evenly into 1 and 10?
1.
Just 1, right. So you can write 1 if that helps. What about a variable? Is there a variable that both of them have? Yeah, what is it? T. So my variable is really just T, but if you want to write 1T, that's fine, okay? So that'll go outside. Okay, and now divide each of them. Please show me this division part where I'm writing that underneath there, because I think it helps you guys like not forget a variable or something, okay? All right, Jake, what will cancel on this first part here?
G.
The T. So what are we left with? W. W, 1W, whichever you want to do. Okay, Austin, the second part. 10T divided by 1T. What will cancel?
T.
T will cancel or be there?
Cancel.
Cancel. So what am I left with?
10.
10. There you go. Do you see that?
So,
Okay. All right. Someone describe, what can we do next now? We split it up. We did the first one. Now what do we need to do? Do the other one. So find the greatest common factor. Super close. So Nathan said 2. Nope, 2 was right. Negative. See how they both have a negative? So you can have a negative greatest common factor. Do they share a variable? Nope, so that's all I can do. Okay, divide by -2, divide by -2. So down here then, am I going to put +2 or -2? Right, so that's where that's going to come in at. All right, my first term in the parentheses there. Nathan S., what is negative 2w divided by negative 2? Think about what will cancel. 1 what? W. Okay. Haley, what's negative 20 divided by negative 2? And is it positive or negative? Positive, so plus 10. Okay, take a quick pause here and look up here. What did I tell you? How do we know if we've done it right so far? What should match up?
Parentheses.
The parentheses. Are my parentheses the same? Yes. Okay, now think about what we did a minute ago. We said this isn't simplest form. How do I simplify this down one more step? What did we do?
T minus 2.
T minus 2. If you put 1t, I'm okay with that. And then what next? Do I write the w plus 10 twice? No, because we're already going to show our double distribution. So I would write w plus 10 done. Okay? Huh? Yeah. All right, so we should have already done 2, 4, 18. Okay, so now you're going to add 20, 22, 24. And then flip the page, you do 29, 38, 39, 41. Okay, you will probably, you won't have enough room to work these out. They don't give you very much space except like the first two. So I want these done on a separate sheet of paper.
We do have room to make the value?
I want them on a separate sheet of paper. Because the only ones you have room for is the first two, and then it gets really messy. I tried to squeeze mine in, and it was not a good idea.
Can you go back
Okay.
to the other page?
So this will be homework 10.5 on Canvas, okay?
Sorry.
Page. You'll circle 38, 39, 41. Okay, these longer ones, please show them on a separate sheet of paper. You do not have room to like work out everything you need right there.
I do.
No. Okay?